there are cases in which God will allow us to rest
Oh, yes.
in this temporary life. It is because He wants to save us in eternity. Good evening, everyone. We want to share with you what we have read from the last day events. I will read something here. It says here, this is referring to Ellen G. White, was shown that the judgments of God would not come directly out from the Lord upon them, but in this way, they place themselves beyond His protection. He warns, corrects, reproves, and points out the only path of safety. If those who have been the objects of His special care will follow their own course, independent of the Spirit of God, after repeated warnings, if they choose their own way, then He does not commission His angels to prevent Satan's decided attacks upon them. Based on the reading, God's judgments are indirect. So,
there are certain things, like for example, in the case of Uzzah, when God said, "Do not touch the ark," and then Uzzah did, he got the direct judgment. He got the direct judgment. And so as with the children of the sons of Aaron, they got the direct judgment right the time that they brought an ordinary fire inside the temple. Right there, they directly receive the recompense of their wrong action. It's a daring action against God's holiness. So there are certain things that has been pronounced by God, although the consequence will not come right away the act, but there are certain things that is so daring in the sight of God, and He has the power, He has the authority to do what pleases Him. According to James 4:12, it says there that there is only one lawgiver who is able to save and to destroy. Who art thou that judges another? So whether God will give a direct or indirect, it is not our authority. Let God's will be done. I love the spirit still that dwelled in the heart of Priest Eli. When he was told by God through Samuel, then Priest Eli submitted because he knew exactly that he committed mistake. When he said, "If it pleases the Lord, let His will be done." Let His will be done. So again, the Bible tells us that there are direct judgment and indirect judgment. But of course, those are temporary, I should say that way, because it is the first death that they're experiencing.
okay, when we look at the world now, there are a lot of natural calamities, floods, fires, everywhere. It says here, it is Satan's power that is at work at sea and on land, bringing calamity and distress and sweeping off multitudes to make sure of his prey. So, for God's people, He has promised His protection. But who is doing all these things? It's Satan. It's the enemy. God has promised His protection. If we are with God, then His protection will be upon us.
Now, that's true. But sometimes we are misunderstanding some of the areas. Why is it that there are people who are faithful to God in our side, and yet when those calamities strike that certain area, they were included in that calamity? Sometimes we need to understand those things of that protection. What kind of protection? Is it only a promise of the protection in the temporary life that we have now? Or the protection of security for eternal life? that is yet to come.
Mm.
So we can get a concept from the book of James that it says there that if there any sick among you, let him call the elder of the church and let him pray over him, anoint him with oil in the name of the Lord, and the prayer of faith shall save the sick. And the Lord shall raise him up. And he may not be healed right away with his position of being sick, but God has promised to raise him up. When is that raising time? That would be during his second coming.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to understand. There are cases in which God will allow us to rest
Oh, yes.
in this temporary life. It is because He wants to save us in eternity, right?
For those whose God is the Lord.
For those
For
whose
those
God
who
is.
trusted in Him. So that's why, according to Paul, it might be death nor life as long as God's name will be glorified. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. So as long as our life is in Jesus Christ, whether we are called to die, of course,
To rest.
temporarily in the dusty grave, or to see Him, coming down in the clouds of glory. Of course, we are longing to see Him face to face without seeing death, right? But if God will allow that, because of His goodness, I should say this way, because He knows the future, and He is seeking for what's the best for His children. If we may not be able to stand the test in the future, and we are faithful now, and if according to His divine, I should say, eyes, that He could see that there is a tendency that we would falter in the future, so He might put us into rest now in order to save our souls.
Okay. Well, if you want to share your thoughts about this, please feel free to comment below.